The day my husband's first love became a widow. He told me he wanted a divorce. And of course our daughter supported him. She always takes his side. My husband, a gray-haired professor, 70 years old, turned his back on me and married his teenage sweetheart. Their wedding photos spread all over the internet like wildfire. Everyone was talking about their true love. And now, here I am, standing at the door of their wedding hall. He walks toward me, holding his new wife's hand tightly, though he's stumbling a bit. His voice shakes as he says, "Sveta, don't make a scene. Let's end this peacefully." Smile. "I'm not here to fight, Sasha. I came to give you a very special gift." Not long ago, my husband Alexander suddenly demanded a divorce. I was shocked. I mean, the man is 70. Why now? He didn't beat around the bush. Victor died. Irina needs support. I want to spend the rest of my life with her. First I blamed myself. Did I do something wrong? Maybe it's just some weird phase he's going through. But no matter what I said, he wouldn't listen. He had made up his mind. He was leaving me. That was it. It all happened so fast. Just 2 weeks ago he was sitting in his usual chair, glasses on, reading the newspaper, waiting for me to serve lunch. And now, he's someone else's husband. I looked around the hall. It was packed. Alexander's students, old friends, fans of Irina. All smiling, holding gifts and flowers. One person stood out. A young woman with a huge bouquet. My daughter, Alina. When she saw me, she handed the flowers to a random guest and rushed over, annoyed. "Mom, what the hell are you doing here? It's Dad's big day. If you came to make a scene, don't expect me to take your side." And blinked. Take your side. You think I came to ruin things? She looked at me coldly. Dad's a professor, a respected man. His students admire him across the country. And you're just an uneducated housewife. Irina touched her arm gently. Don't speak to your mother like that. She raised you. She took care of your father for years. Her life hasn't been easy either. Alina softened a bit. Of course, Irina. If you say so. Then she turned back to me. Still impatient but calmer. Mom, you shouldn't be here. This is Dad and Aunt Irina's wedding. Please leave. She was eager to get rid of me. Before I could speak, she pushed me toward the exit. And just as we reached the entrance of the Grand Palace, she added, "By the way, can you pick up Artyom from daycare? There's no one at home. Take him to the playground." Hearing my grandson's name, sweet little Artyom, made me stop. I took a deep breath and swallowed my anger. Fine. I'll let it go for now. I turned and left to get Artyom. Just then, a group of young people rushed into the hotel. One of them accidentally bumped into me, then quickly helped me up. "Sorry. We're running late to the wedding." His friend shouted. "Come on, man. It already started. It's the wedding of Professor Alexander and Irina." I watched them disappear inside. My mind was spinning. Inside that hall, on a huge screen, their wedding photo was probably shining bright. Under it, maybe a line like, "True love has no limits." What a slap in the face. I gave a bitter smile. To everyone, I was never good enough for Alexander. Never his equal. But they don't know the truth. Years ago, I was supposed to go to school, get an education. But my father used all our savings, every last coin, to pay for Alexander's university instead. He was the orphaned son of my dad's best friend. Because of that, I had to quit school. That night, I heard my mom crying, holding back sobs. "We should have let Sveta study. If you don't help her, she'll end up like me," my mom said once. My father just stood there smoking in silence. But I didn't get angry. In fact, I was happy for Alexander. I ran up to him with shining eyes and said, "You're going to university now. When you come back, you can teach me everything you learn." "Okay," he said. When Sasha left for college the first time, he kept looking back at me every few steps, like he felt guilty. But honestly, his hesitation just annoyed me. Back in the village, I worked even harder, helping my parents. I was hoping we'd save enough by fall so I could buy Sasha a gift. That winter, he held my hand and promised, "Sveta, don't worry. When I finish university, I'll get a good job, take you with me, and we'll have a good life together." And now, he looks down on me just because I don't have an education. He tells me we have nothing in common. So many times I've heard, "Sveta, why don't you read a book in your free time? Learn something." I'm embarrassed to tell my students my wife is uneducated and doesn't understand anything. And every time I'd think, in my age, with a house full of chores, when do I have time to sit and read? When I refused, he'd lose his patience, throw down his newspaper and walk out, muttering, "I'm going to Irina's. Maybe Victor and I will play some chess." But now I realize it was never about the chess. It was about her, the woman he always saw as his perfect wife. I snapped out of my thoughts. I was already at the Daisy daycare. The playground was empty, all the kids were gone. Through the window I saw Artyom. He was the last one left. The teacher looked relieved when she saw me. I couldn't reach Artyom's mom. "I'm so glad you came." I quickly took his hand and thanked her. At the bus stop, Artyom looked up at me. "Grandma, where are we going?" "To the park. Gorky Park. There's a playground." He pouted. "I don't want to go to the park. I want to go to Grandpa's wedding." Froze. Even Artyom knows about the wedding. I couldn't help but wonder, how did they explain it to a child? That his 70-year-old grandfather couldn't forget his first love, so he left his wife and ran back to her? My head was spinning, but Artyom tugged on my hand. "Grandma, please. Can I come with you? I really want to go." His eyes were glowing with excitement. "I heard my new grandma is Aunt Irina. Lots of kids in school like her books. Now I can tell everyone my grandma is a famous writer. Maybe then they'll stop laughing at me." I knelt down, took off his little backpack, smiled softly, and made a decision. "Okay, let's go to Grandpa's wedding." On the way, Artyom kept talking non-stop. "Grandma, are you not going to live with us anymore? The other day, I heard Mom and Grandpa say they want to send you back to the village." My heart sank, but I forced a smile. "And what do you think? Should Grandma go back to the village?" He scrunched up his face in thought. After a minute he said, "If you leave, I won't be able to eat your chocolate cake. But if everyone finds out my new grandma is Aunt Irina, they'll be so jealous." He kept mumbling to himself, weighing the pros and cons. I looked at him, amused but also a bit hurt. At least Artyom is honest about how he feels. Unlike his mother and grandfather, who hide behind fake smiles and noble words. One chases after true love. The other wants a new stepmom to look good in public. And me. Somehow, I'm the villain in all of this. It's all your fault. If you had tried harder, done something with your life, we wouldn't be in this mess. Those were Sasha's words the last time he walked out of our house. Aline, of course, supported him completely. "Mom, don't take it personally. Dad and Aunt Irina are a perfect match. And let's be real, you're just a housewife. You lived with Dad in comfort for so many years. Be grateful." That's what they say now. Even my own daughter acts like they just want me to disappear. Right away. In my head, I wanted to scream, "Dad, if only you knew the man you gave everything to would turn out this ungrateful. You'd regret it." I still remember the day Sasha proposed to me after university. I hesitated. I was nervous. "You're a brilliant scientist. You have a bright future. Am I really good enough for you? Don't marry me just because you feel you owe my father. Neither of us want that." But Alexander looked me in the eye and said, "It's not about debt. I just feel we're made for each other. We'll be happy together." Such a simple and sincere confession. I believed him. Back then, I believed everything he said. I thought love meant being partners, sharing life, trusting each other. I never imagined that one day, after decades together, he'd toss me aside like an old book, ashamed to be seen with me in public. And now, he stands next to Irina, holding her hand, basking in praise from the crowd. The same man who once promised me a future has now erased our past, like I was never part of his story. I remember the night before our wedding. My father sat outside my bedroom all night. In the morning, I opened the door and saw a pile of cigarette butts at his feet. He looked at me with a calm but heavy voice. "Don't worry, sweetheart. If Sasha ever treats you badly, I'll stand up for you." But my father died 5 years later. He never got the chance to keep that promise. After that, no one was left to protect me. Alexander no longer had to hold back. And he didn't. He was the closest person in my life, and he hurt me the most. By the time I arrived, the wedding party was in full swing. Alexander and Irina stood in the center of the hall, glowing with joy, accepting congratulations. As soon as Artyom saw his grandpa, he ran up to him shouting, "Grandpa, you look so handsome today." His little voice made the whole room smile. Even Artyom knew it was a happy day. But no one there knew the truth, that the suit Alexander was wearing, the one that made him look so sharp, was sewn by me. And inside the cuff, a tiny blue thread I had stitched, once his good luck charm. And today he pulled that suit from the closet and wore it to marry someone else. Irina turned to me with a gentle smile. "Svetlana, have a seat." Alexander added, "So, are you moving back to the village? Any plans for the future?" I didn't even get a chance to answer before whispers filled the room. Why is she here? Such a plain woman with no talent or achievements. How did she ever marry a professor? So bold of her to show up. Now that they're divorced, she took it surprisingly well. Let's be honest, she was never on his level. Just because their fathers were friends doesn't mean she had a right to cling to him forever. Every word cut like 1,000 knives. All the buried memories came rushing back. Like how Alexander never once let me visit him at work. Not to bring lunch, a change of clothes, or even important documents. If I had to, he'd insist I leave it with the security guard. To him I was just a maid. I remember once asking him, shyly, to recommend me some books. He looked at me coldly and said, "Do you even know how to read? Don't waste time. If you have a free minute, go to the kitchen. We're hungry." To him I never deserved knowledge. Because if I started learning, if I started thinking for myself, he'd lose his excuse to treat me like nothing. And without that excuse, how would he explain why he left me? How would he justify running back to his precious first love? "Mom, why are you just standing there? Everyone's staring." Eileen's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. She sighed in frustration and said, "Just leave already. Here's 1,000 rubles for a taxi. Go home. Don't make a scene. I'll come over after the wedding and we'll have dinner." She pulled out the money, ready to shove it into my hand. For years I was a housewife without income. They controlled every single ruble I got. I was never allowed to save anything for myself. Every expense had to be explained. Even when I was sick, I had to ask for money just to see a doctor. And now she's throwing cash at me, just to make me leave. What a joke. I looked at the money in her hand, and refused to take it. Alina got confused. "Is it not enough? Fine, here's 5,000. Is that better?" Before she could finish, I slapped her. The loud sound echoed through the hall. Alina froze, shocked. The whole room went silent. People craned their necks to see. I stared straight into her eyes. "Who do you think you're talking to?" My voice was cold. "You're trying to pay off your own mother. Just so I leave quietly and your father can marry his mistress. You're just as ungrateful as he is." Alina stood there stunned, her cheek red. Alexander and Irina rushed over, trying to calm things down. "Svetlana, please. This is my wedding," Alexander said. He hesitated. "Okay, I admit it. Your father helped me a lot. I wouldn't have gone to university without him. I might have starved. But I paid him back. I've never treated you badly." Irina spoke gently, like she was trying to soothe me. "I understand this is hard for you, Svetlana. I'm not trying to erase the past. I know you and Alexander had many years together. Alexander looked at me. He looked tired. So why are you holding on to the past? Why can't you just let go? I let out a short, cold laugh. Half the truth. Sure, you didn't treat me badly. I didn't starve under your roof. But while you were chasing your academic dreams, most of the money went to Irina and her family. A murmur spread through the guests. Kept going. My voice was firm. And after Alina was born, you stopped sleeping in the same bed as me. Then you stopped sharing a room. You said you needed peace and quiet to work. You said you didn't want to disturb me or the baby. But even when Alina wasn't home, you wouldn't come near me. I looked him in the eye, tilted my head. Now I know why. The whispering around us got louder. You weren't protecting your focus for research. You were saving yourself for Irina. The hall fell silent. Then came a wave of whispers again. She's serious. I thought he was forced into the first marriage. But even if he didn't love her, being married for decades and acting like that, that's cruel. Alexander's face darkened. He clenched his fists. This is humiliating. How dare you say this in front of everyone? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, now you care about dignity. I took a step closer. My voice sharp. You had decades to show dignity, Sasha. Where was it when you were sneaking around behind Victor's back? When you and Irina were meeting in secret behind her husband's back? As soon as the words came out, the entire room gasped. Alexander raised his hand, almost pointing a finger in my face. His whole body was shaking with anger. Stupid woman. How can you say such things in public? Cut him off. Yes, I'm stupid. I smiled slowly. But at least I know the difference between right and wrong. I looked from him to Irina. Unlike you. Alexander was practically trembling now. His face red with rage. And for the first time in years, felt satisfied. Years ago, on a quiet evening, my father brought home a boy. He said, "This is the son of a friend who once saved my life. I can't just leave him to struggle." From that night, Sasha lived with us. My mother was a kind, simple woman. She never questioned my father's choices. She just followed his example. But our village was full of gossip. The gossip spread like wildfire. People whispered, "I bet that boy is your husband's secret child. Are you raising his lover's son?" Every time my mom heard those whispers, she would storm out the door, hands on her hips, ready to fight. "Which one of you snakes is talking trash? My husband would never do that. Go home and watch your own husbands before they start cheating with some whore." She was fierce and didn't hold back with the neighbors. But as soon as she turned to look at Sasha, her face softened. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, sweetheart. While I'm here, no one will hurt you." Just like Mom, I also protected Sasha with everything I had. If anyone even looked at him the wrong way, I made sure they regretted it. Even the bullies in town knew not to mess with me. One more word about Sasha, and I'd break your face. Back then, I never imagined it would end like this. That after all those years by his side, I'd realize. I spent my life on a traitor. Sveta. Alexander's voice pulled me back to the present. His face was cold as ice. "I already told you. I'm spending the rest of my life with Irina. You can throw all the tantrums you want. Nothing will change. At least try to keep a little dignity." I spat at his feet. "I don't care who you spend your life with. I never said you couldn't move on. But the divorce wasn't even final and you were already planning a wedding." My voice dripped with sarcasm. "So tell me, who's the one without dignity here?" I took a step closer, looking him straight in the eye. "You say you want peace. Then I won't accept your terms." My voice was sharp now. "I gave everything to this marriage. And now you want to throw me out with nothing? Do you think I'm too dumb or uneducated to see how unfair this is?" Irina laughed, cold and full of pity. Her eyes looked down on me. "Svetlana," she said with a fake smile, "I'm not asking you to walk away empty-handed. But keeping up that house all these years was expensive. There's not much left. But don't worry. When you move back to the village, Alexander will send support payments. We'll even help fix up your old house. The guests started murmuring. The whispers turned into open disgust. Oh, now I get it, someone said. She just wants money. I knew it. No way she'd let go without trying to get something. What a schemer. Shame follows her like a shadow. I gave a cold, bitter laugh. I thought I was standing in a room full of smart people, I said, my voice full of irony. But clearly, you're just as ignorant as they are. I looked at the crowd. No different from these two ungrateful liars. I let out a quiet laugh again, then turned to Irina and Alexander. You want to play games? Fine. I lifted my chin. See you in court. I may be 70, but I've lived long enough to finally see the truth. If nothing else, I understood life before it was too late. I didn't argue with them anymore. I turned and walked home. While they celebrated, I packed my things and realized there was barely anything to take. Just one small suitcase, only half full. As I was leaving, they came back. Alina spoke first. Mom, you can stay at the house for now if you want. We're leaving for a short trip anyway. Her tone was casual, like we hadn't just been at war with each other. They were all heading to the next city for Irina's book launch. I didn't expect my daughter to get so close to Irina. I gave a small laugh and shook my head. Well, happy travels to all of you. I wasn't angry. I didn't argue. And that, strangely, seemed to scare them the most. Alexander cleared his throat. His voice cautious. Sveta, I know you're a reasonable person. Just don't do anything foolish. Even Alina, who had always looked at me with barely hidden disgust, suddenly looked worried. Where are you going? I'll drive you. That shocked me. Alina had never offered to give me a ride. Not even when I asked her to drop me off at the market. She always refused. She was ashamed that someone might see her father's uneducated wife. But today she offered. Maybe her conscience finally woke up. I looked her in the eye. No need. Stay here. Get closer to your new mother. I smiled bitterly. You'll need her influence anyway, to keep climbing that social ladder. My words were full of sharp sarcasm. Alina opened her mouth like she wanted to say something. But I didn't wait. I turned and walked out of the house. That evening I saw her latest post online. Happy family photo. Alina was hugging Irina tightly, their faces pressed together like real mother and daughter. If Irina had a biological daughter, she would have looked just like that. But Irina can't have children. She had a serious illness when she was young, and it left her infertile. Victor adored her. After her illness, he loved her even more. Fiercely, faithfully. Never betrayed her once. And yet, even knowing how much Victor loved her, felt only pity. Because if Irina hadn't given Alexander hope, he never would have proposed to her just days after Victor died. The truth is obvious. Those two were together long before Victor passed away. I contacted a lawyer to write a new legal agreement. After hearing my story, he was furious. In your situation, he said, we need to expose him as the guilty party. Otherwise, if he claims he supported you all these years, you could lose everything when it comes to dividing the assets. Under his advice, I recorded a short video and posted it online. I told the truth about the decades I spent with Alexander, the sacrifices I made, and how I was thrown away like garbage. I wasn't trying to win him back. I just wanted what I was owed. That last line was my lawyer's idea. But the first part, that was all mine. I was nervous. At the wedding, people had already called me shameless for showing up. Of course, the internet would tear me apart even more. But to my surprise, the reaction was completely different. Wait, that's the real wife from that crazy wedding. She's the grandma. You did the right thing, ma'am. Fight for your rights. You gave up everything for him. And now he wants to throw you out with nothing. Screw that. Comments poured in. Public opinion flipped overnight. It's not even about the money. She gave up her education for him. She dedicated her life to their home. And now he wants to send her off to a village with nothing. That's just cruel. Right on cue my phone rang. It was Alexander. I answered, already knowing what he was going to say. Sveta. His voice was tense, rushed. You want money? Fine, I'll give you money. Just stop turning people against Irina. You know how upset she is. She cried all day. Her eyes are swollen. And in the background, I heard a quiet voice. It was Artyom. Grandma is bad. Grandma only wants money. Grandma is bad. Before, those words would have broken me. But now I just smiled calmly. I told my lawyer to draft a new agreement. Sign it, I said. And once we officially divide everything, I won't bring this up again. Alexander stayed silent for a long time, then sighed. Okay, he said and hung up. Just when I thought the worst was over, Aline posted something online. My mother was a housewife all her life, but she has a very controlling personality. My father and I lived under a lot of pressure because of her. In her video, she keeps hinting that my dad cheated. But let me ask you, how could he? He's 70. He spent his life trapped in a hopeless marriage. Only when he felt the end was near, he found the courage to ask for a divorce. And just then, Aunt Irina became a widow. Two people who loved each other in their youth finally reunited in their old age. What's so wrong with that? Her post caused a storm online. But this time it wasn't just about me. Men who felt powerless in their own marriages began to defend Alexander. I understand Alexander. A bossy wife can really suffocate you. After a hard day, a man just wants peace. If the wife is too dominant, life becomes unbearable. Irina seems so gentle. Honestly, she and Alexander are a better match. And just like that, everything turned against me again. I became the controlling old lady who complains over nothing. No one cared about the truth. Aline even sent me a mocking message. Told you so, didn't I? Stop fighting. Just go back to the village and live out your days in peace. By standing up for her father publicly, Aline gave him confidence. The man who once wanted peace now avoided me completely. Even my lawyer couldn't reach him. Calls went unanswered. The lawyer was furious. Your daughter. She's something else. Doesn't she understand what you went through? You gave everything to this family. And this is how they repay you. Don't worry. I'll win this case. Meanwhile, as public opinion shifted in their favor, Irina made a whole show of her victory. At a book signing, she made a comment clearly meant for me. A woman, no matter her age, is always a rose to be cherished. And if she's not loved properly, maybe she was never a rose worth loving. The crowd clapped at her poetic words, not realizing how cruel they really were. I laughed coldly. She really thought she had won. Everyone thought I was going to lose. But then, I found someone willing to speak the truth for me. Victor's nephew, Pavel. Victor never had kids, but he loved Pavel like a son. And in his final moments, Irina wasn't even there, she was away. Pavel stayed by his side until the end. Pavel recorded a video for me. Hi everyone. My name is Pavel Volkov. Legally I'm Irina's nephew, but truly I was Victor's. After Victor died, Irina didn't wait long to remarry. Since childhood I've loved photography. My uncle supported my passion. He even bought me my first camera. And with that camera I captured something. For years I saw Irina with other men. I struggled, should I tell my uncle? Break his heart? But before I found the courage, he passed away. I can't help but blame Irina. She was cold and distant for years. My uncle slowly fell into depression. Irina didn't even try to hide her affairs. The photos may be 10 years old, but they clearly show the truth. And among the men in those photos was Alexander. I never expected their connection to go back that far. When the video ended, I called Pavel and thanked him over and over. He was quiet for a while, then said, "You remind me of my uncle. You're both good people. I won't let you suffer the way he did." Some people may get older, but their character stays rotten. They don't deserve respect. Right after I hung up, Alexander called me. He sounded upset. Svetlana, how could you? Are you trying to destroy my reputation? I didn't bother to argue with him. Pavel's video caused a storm. Public opinion flipped again. My lawyer released an official statement. Svetlana Andreevna has filed for a legal separation. The only unresolved issue is the division of property. My client gave her life to this family, but in the end, they betrayed her and left her with nothing. This is deeply unfair. As her lawyer, I will protect her legal rights and take action against those spreading false claims. People started speaking out. Old neighbors, Alexander's co-workers, even a young woman who used to be a huge fan of Irina. I used to admire Irina so much. But after learning the truth, I just can't believe how awful she really is. That one short sentence hit hard. Irina's books were pulled from store shelves. Several publishers ended their contracts with her. They said, "Honesty is just as important as talent. We value good writing, but we also value integrity. Both matter." Then one night I heard a knock at my door. I opened it and there they were. Alexander and Irina. Irina's knees buckled the moment she saw me. She almost collapsed. "Svetlana, please. I can't take this anymore. I'm begging you. Please let us go. Let this go." Alexander stood beside her, red-faced with shame. He didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, in a low voice, he mumbled, "If you leave Irina alone, I'll come back. We can go back to how things were." I looked at him for a second, then let out a small laugh. "Do you really think so highly of yourself?" His eyes widened. "Do you honestly believe I've done all this just to win you back?" Smirk. "Sasha, the day you asked for a divorce was the day I stopped thinking of you as my husband. I'm not trying to get you back. I'm just taking what I deserve, for myself and for the memory of my parents, who gave up so much for you." Alexander's face went dark with anger. Irina was still on her knees, quietly sobbing. I lifted my foot and gently nudged her. Caught off guard, she flinched, staring at me in shock. They had called me aggressive and controlling, but I had never once laid a hand on either of them. I endured everything, never even raising my voice. But not anymore. I looked Irina in the eye and smiled slightly. "Enough with the acting. We both know these apologies are just a performance." She gasped. She knew I was right. In that moment, staying with Alexander was her only option. Without him she had nothing. No one to take care of her in old age. And Alexander, I knew him too well. He was already planning his next move. He cleared his throat and tried again. This time he spoke more softly. "Sveta, I really am sorry for everything. Can we just leave the past behind?" Right then my phone buzzed. A message popped up from Aline. "Mom, Dad and Irina are on their way to you. Are you talking to them?" my daughter asked. "Dad says they came to apologize." I replied with a short text. "Yes, your parents are here. Your mom is crying." A few seconds later, Alina answered. "If my mom is crying, why aren't you crying too?" I stared at the message for a moment, then gave a cold smile. They really had no shame. Without thinking twice, I blocked Alina's number. That was the end of our mother-daughter relationship. About half an hour after Alexander and Irina left, my lawyer called. Alexander had agreed to sign the papers. I wasn't surprised. He had always been obsessed with his reputation. No way would he go to court at 70 years old, especially against a woman who used to be the daughter of his biggest supporter. He couldn't risk the humiliation. The deal was simple. He would keep the house, and besides the money in the accounts, he'd pay me an extra 300,000. It wasn't a fortune, but I knew it was all he could give. I used the money to buy a small piece of land in Tula region and opened a little shop called Country Cottage. I grew vegetables, raised chickens and ducks. Slowly, word spread about my little peaceful place. People liked the calm, the clean food with no chemicals, and the fresh eggs. Over time, my small business earned a good reputation. One day, while I was reviewing some bills in the shop, a young woman came up to me shyly. "Excuse me," she whispered like it was a secret. "Are you that brave grandma?" I saw curiosity and admiration in her eyes. Took me a second to understand. When I did, I smiled and nodded. She lit up with joy. She turned out to be a former student of Alexander and a fan of Irina's books. She told me that after the scandal, she was disappointed and didn't know which intellectuals to trust anymore. "But when I heard your story," she said, "I felt inspired. You proved that even at 70, it's possible to start over. We all think you're incredibly brave." Thanks to her, I found out what happened to Alexander and Irina. The consequences of the scandal were huge. It didn't just fade away, it left a lasting stain. Alexander, who was still working at the university on a special contract after retiring, was fired without ceremony. They quietly removed his portrait from the university walls, erasing his legacy. All of Irina's books were pulled from shelves. And Alina, she had planned to use Irina's fame to move up in society, get a better job, raise her status. But now that dream collapsed right in front of her eyes. Without Irina's influence, she had nothing to stand on. In the end, her anger at Irina became even stronger than the disgust she once had for me. Her promising career path was now completely blocked. The scandal made her a social outcast. Every job application was met with rejection. Because of her strained relationships with both Irina and Alexander, her position just kept getting worse. The higher she tried to climb, the lower she fell. Then one night Alina called me. Her voice was tense, barely audible. "Mom, I messed everything up. I've lost it all." I didn't respond right away. Her confession didn't bring me satisfaction, just a quiet understanding. She had finally faced the consequences of her own choices. "I warned you," I said softly. "You can't climb on other people's backs to succeed. You tried to take what belonged to others, and in the end, it left you with nothing." She didn't say a word. There was only silence, full of regret. I knew there was nothing more I could say. She had to live with the consequences now. As for me, my life became more like the one I had once dreamed of as a young girl. Quiet, peaceful days in my countryside hideaway felt far from the suffocating years I had spent trying to please people who never truly valued me. I had built a life that was mine, free from manipulation, betrayal, and silent expectations. I spent my days working in the shop, occasionally meeting other women like me, who had rediscovered themselves later in life. The pride I felt from building something with my own hands was more rewarding than any status or recognition I had once craved. I realized, happiness doesn't come from proving people wrong or taking revenge. It comes from creating a space where you can truly be yourself. Looking back, I paid a high price for the lessons I learned. But I've never felt more at peace with who I am, and with the life I built. One evening, as I stood on the porch, watching the sun set behind the hills, I knew this was the beginning of something better. Something that truly belonged to me. And that was enough.